Good afternoon and welcome to the Kennedy Space Center. I'm Bob Cabana, to have the privilege of being the director here. And I'd like to welcome you all to this 30th anniversary celebration of the Space Shuttle program and our long-awaited orbiter disposition announcement. To get things started, I'd like to start off with this video, and it's narrated by someone that I'm sure you're going to recognize. Can we have the video?
An idea born in unsettled times.
We are going forward. America, the United States, is first in space.
Becomes a feat of engineering excellence. The most complex machine ever built to bring humans to and from space.
Zero and liftoff of Endeavour.
And eventually construct the next stop on the road to space exploration.
Request to take the radio call sign Alpha.
As 30 years of flight draw to a close, its legacy is one of unsurpassed achievement. NASA Space Shuttle. Space Shuttle Endeavour is rolling out to Launch Pad 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. In 24 missions, flown over 20 years, Endeavour has logged more than 103 million miles in space. The last of NASA's shuttles to be built, Endeavour prepares for her final flight, STS-134. Endeavour's 6 astronauts have trained for this mission for years. Well before any shuttle reaches the launch pad, however, a staggering amount of work is required. The parts, plans, and people necessary to make each launch span the entire nation.
You've got all these people, all these folks that are in their 20s, some of them in their 30s, and they are, no kidding, in charge of some part of the space shuttle, some part of the space station, or some part of the plan. And every one of those people absolutely believes that they are the one that makes the difference on getting those astronauts back down to the ground alive.
At NASA's Mission Assembly Facility in New Orleans, production begins on the shuttle's external fuel tank. The last of 136 produced here since 1973. Around the same time, in Clearfield, Utah, technicians at ATK Launch Systems start work on the shuttle system's solid rocket motors, or boosters.
Fire.
Unlike the orange external tank that is used only once, the boosters detach themselves and parachute into the Atlantic Ocean. They are then retrieved, refurbished, and reused on later missions. The shuttle mission's crew is assigned. Right up until launch, a shuttle crew will train in a variety of critical regimens, some basic, others specific to their mission. Simulators, safety and contingency, science experiments, and underwater in the world's largest indoor pool. One month later, the ET is mated to the solid rocket boosters to form the backbone of the stack. Now, all that's missing is the spacecraft itself. Looking now much like it will at liftoff, the space shuttle is carried to the launch pad atop the 6 million pound crawler transporter at a blazing pace of less than a mile an hour. Not exactly warp speed.
At our peak, carrying full load, we get right around 38 feet per gallon.
Not too bad for an original 1965 hybrid vehicle with low miles. The 3.4 mile journey takes up to 6 hours. Now on the launch pad, the orbiter is ready to take on its main payload. Testing assures that the multi-ton cargo is secured and safely stowed in the payload bay before the technicians certify the orbiter is ready for launch. Flying T-38 aircraft from Ellington Field in Houston, the crew members arrive at Kennedy's shuttle landing facility.
This is the NTD conducting the launch status check. All stations verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC, OTC go. TBC, TBC go. ETC.
After nearly 3 years, hundreds of thousands of hours logged by engineers, technicians, scientists, seamstresses, electricians, and other program workers across the globe.
We have main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition.
The shuttle makes its way skyward. At liftoff, 6.6 million pounds of thrust begin hurtling the vehicle and crew at speeds that'll reach 17,500 miles per hour. The shuttle is like no other machine ever built. For its launch to succeed, more than 1 million parts must move together perfectly. How this engineering marvel came to be is an amazing story that begins in the early 1970s. A new mission is sought for NASA to send humans into space, but Mars, for many the next logical step on the path of exploration, is dismissed as too costly, a destination for a country preoccupied with events back on Earth. Instead, on January 5th, 1972, another destination is selected. Low Earth orbit.
President Nixon really liked the idea and told the NASA administrator, go do it. And the NASA administrator got a call from OMB the next morning, someone there, and said, hey, what the president really meant to say was, you're going to get this much money, and so do as best you can with the space transportation system. And our choice, logically, was we have to have a vehicle first, and so that was the birth of the Space Shuttle as the first in the 3-part space transportation system.
Many designs were considered. Often, they combined the best features of different concepts. One was the use of a lifting body, an aircraft with no conventional wings. Only its fuselage would keep the aircraft airborne and guide it safely back to Earth.
At that time, they were looking at having jet engines on the shuttle for landing and for transporting it across the country.
They were known as the flying bathtubs. For the first test, the M2F1 was towed behind a car, a souped-up Pontiac. Whitey Whitesides drove that Pontiac across the lake bed at about 120 miles per hour, dragging this flying bathtub behind it.
As well as groundbreaking, their tests could also prove ground shaking. September 1976, more than 4.5 years after President Nixon signed off on its development, America's new spacecraft, Constitution, gets its first close-up before the cameras. The orbiter itself was well received by the public, but impassioned fans of a particular long-canceled television series called Star Trek wanted it called something else. They staged a successful write-in campaign, and the orbiter was renamed for the Starship featured on the show. Thus, NASA's new shuttle would be the Enterprise, boldly going as no spacecraft had ever gone before. Whatever its name, this bird still needed to prove it could fly. In an age before computer simulations, balsa wood models and wind tunnel testing was the only means to test the airliner-sized glider.
We put together a very aggressive flight test profile that consisted of data points continuously all the way down. There was not a matter of 10 seconds went by without another either pitch doublet or rudder kick or an angle of attack sweep. The things that really turn on a test pilot to fly them as accurately as possible.
August 12, 1977. On a crystal clear California morning, high above the Mojave Desert, 2 NASA test pilots ready for Enterprise's first flight. The plan was for Fred Hayes, Jr. and Gordon Fullerton to lift the orbiter off a modified 747, then land on a dry lake bed 15,000 feet below. Columbia, NASA's first orbiter, is fittingly named after the first American vessel to circumnavigate the globe. While the new class of NASA astronauts trained for subsequent shuttle flights, Columbia was undergoing preparations for the program's maiden voyage, STS-1. Veteran astronaut John Young, one of the 12 men to set foot on the moon, is in command. His pilot is first-time flyer Bob Crippen. Together they would travel over 1 million miles and circle the Earth 36 times.
John used to say, Crip, hey, they're getting ready to light off 7 million pounds of thrust under you, and you're a little bit excited. You don't know what's going on. And both John and I knew what was going on.
Launched like a rocket 2 days earlier, Columbia lands as a glider on the dry lake bed of Edwards Air Force Base in California.
We do a big turnaround to land on the lake bed for that first flight. And I remember when John went into a bank, a big left bank, I looked down at the lake bed, and there's thousands of people out there. And I said, John, look at all those folks, which had come out to see us land.
Anyone who was associated with the program or there just to see the shuttle return, I think felt a lot of pride in our country and our space program. And so those emotions were, finally released, and you said, wow, the flight was done safely, they're back home. The shuttle really does work. It's a great program. It's got a great future ahead of it.
Liftoff of the Challenger of Columbia. Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared Atlantis.
For more than 30 years, the fleet and thousands of Americans dedicated to its safety and success have toiled in exhilarating triumph, heartbreaking tragedy, and most often, quiet obscurity. Their contributions have extended beyond the bounds of space. Among others, shuttle-derived technologies have been used in developing an artificial heart and limbs, three-dimensional biotechnology, a light for treating tumors in children, and improving crime prevention and wildfire detection. From crawler driver to payload specialist, from scuba diver to pilot, from scientist to engineer, they and many like them throughout the nation share a commitment to sending humankind safely into space. That dedication, as much as any other acclaim, will be the legacy of America's Space Shuttle.
I think will be remembered in thousands of years, as perhaps the most incredible technological feat of humans of our time.
As is the order of life, an ending for the Space Shuttle becomes a beginning for a space-bound successor. Soon, America will again send astronauts into orbit and beyond to do what NASA does best: explore.
Amazing stuff. Let me see a show of hands. Crip, you don't need to raise your hand. How many of you were here 30 years ago? Wow. Wow, that is amazing. You can put your hands down. 30 years ago today, the most amazing test flight of all time took place. A couple of Navy test pilots, John Young and Bob Crippen, piloted Columbia on its maiden voyage, the first ever flight of a reusable spacecraft. It was a 2-day checkout of Columbia, launching from here at 7 in the morning on Pad A out at Launch Complex 39 and returning to Edwards Air Force Base on April 14th. It was the beginning of a remarkable chapter in America's leadership in space exploration that opened the doors of space for everyone. In spite of the many technical challenges that needed to be overcome, in spite of the heartbreaks of Challenger and Columbia, the Space Shuttle has been a phenomenal success and a symbol of America's leadership for years. Look at America's astronaut corps pre- and post-shuttle. We've gone from a group of white male test pilots to a diverse group that represents the very fabric of our society. The same can be said for our flight controllers, engineers, and technicians that launch and recover this amazing machine and keep our space station safely on orbit. But as amazing as the shuttle is and all its accomplishments are, it's still just a machine. It's the people that are the heart of the shuttle, in the heart of our space program. It's how we define ourselves. It's who we are. We're not just Bob, Tom, or Nancy. We're a shuttle mid-body technician, a shuttle test conductor, a shuttle TPS engineer. We are the shuttle program, the shuttle team, and we're extremely proud and privileged to be a part of it, no matter what role we play. So this celebration today, it's not just to recognize the boldest and gutsiest test flight of all time. It's to celebrate this amazing team that made it all possible, and who will make the next step possible too, as we once again prepare to explore beyond the bounds of our home planet. So thanks to all of you who made the shuttle program so successful and who make NASA and KSC such an outstanding place to work. Right now, thanks. Right now, we got a special message.
You from the International Space Station. I'm Russian cosmonaut from Federal Space Agency and Disposition 27 Commander Dmitry Kondratiev.
Paolo Nespoli, Italian astronaut of the European Space Agency.
Ron Garan from NASA.
Alexander Samokutyaev from Roscosmos.
Andrei Borisenko from Roscosmos.
Katie Coleman from NASA. We're thrilled to be a part of today's special commemoration. I'm sorry that we can't be there with you today, but it's because of your hard work that we're here today on the space station, living and working on the only orbiting research laboratory.
The dedication of the amazing workforce across America that has built the Space Shuttle fleet and painstakingly processed and cared for the vehicles enabled these spaceships to do some truly amazing things, including building this beautiful space station that will continue unprecedented scientific research and support international cooperation for years to come.
Our crew is represented by 3 agencies of the ISS partnership, a collaboration that was tested and proven by the Space Shuttle that carried astronauts from around the world into orbit long before construction began on this outpost.
We will miss the capabilities and the beauty of the Space Shuttle. It has been a national icon for innovation and exploration for 30 years. But its legacy, and yours, lives on in the work that we do here on the ISS. The retirement of the shuttle fleet should not be seen as an end. It represents the next step in extending humanity's reach further into space. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this very special day, and please be sure to take a moment to be proud of your contribution to human spaceflight.
I'd like to take a minute to recognize our elected officials and their representatives that are with us this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming County Commissioner Chuck Nelson and representatives from Senator Nelson's, Senator Rubio, Congresswoman Sandy Adams, and Representative Bill Posey's office. Thank you.
Discovery, named for past ships of exploration, was delivered from its Palmdale, California shuttle factory to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in November 1983. Since then, Discovery has lived up to the historic legacy of its name. It flew to space more times than any other spacecraft. In orbit, it released a telescope to probe the universe and a spacecraft to explore the sun. It carried laboratories to study weightlessness and instruments to study the Earth and its atmosphere. Early in its career, Discovery became the first spacecraft to bring a satellite back to Earth.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, making shuttle history on building our future in space.
But perhaps even more compelling than the discoveries it enabled in space is the spirit this vehicle has helped humanity discover on Earth. Its missions include flights that showcased how one-time Cold War adversaries can become long-term friends for exploration. Its flights further expanded space travel beyond boundaries of age, gender, and race, counting among those who flew on it the oldest astronaut, the first female shuttle pilot, and the first African-American spacewalker. But above all, Discovery twice proved that America had the will and the determination to persevere and succeed in the face of devastating grief and tragedy, returning America to space after the Challenger and the Columbia accidents. Discovery is the most accomplished space shuttle ever, amounting to over 5,000 trips around the Earth and more than 300 days in space.
It's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium a four-time shuttle astronaut, a member of the Astronaut Hall of Fame, our NASA Administrator and my friend, Charlie Bolden.
Thank you all very much. Stay focused. You're going to hear me say that a couple of times. That's not my script, but stay focused. Bob, I want to thank you very much for hosting this gala and allowing me to be down here. It's always great to be back with members of the Space Shuttle program and to celebrate the extraordinary success that we've seen through the years. In addition to my friend Bob Cabana, who was flying shuttle missions during it sounds funny to say this, during the same era as I, we have another astronaut from that time you may have heard of, Bob Crippen, who honors us with his presence here. As I think all of you know, Cripp flew STS-1 with John Young, and then he flew 3 other shuttle missions before coming back here to actually run the Kennedy Space Center for a while. Also joining us is Janet Cavandi, the Director of Flight Crew Operations. Janet's a current astronaut, and she's flown 3 times and is helping us oversee the phase-out of the shuttle program. So we have the full spectrum of shuttle astronauts here with us today covering the program's history. Stay focused. And it's wonderful that this date dovetails with the 50th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's courageous flight when he became the first human to reach space. I want to thank each and every one of you and the many others in the shuttle workforce over the years for your significant contribution to this tremendous American accomplishment. You've inspired a generation, helped make the world a better place, and given us a roadmap for future space exploration. You should take pride in that. Today belongs not just to the hundreds of men and women who have flown on the shuttle, but to all of you who have helped these missions to succeed. Those of us who have flown on the shuttle put our lives in your hands each time we flew. And I never doubted that all of you on the ground in launch and mission control, in orbiter processing, in every phase of the program were absolutely dedicated and among the most skilled and committed people I've ever known. Your ability to troubleshoot and solve problems quickly has salvaged many a launch and also helped keep astronauts safe in space. Whenever a problem arises with the shuttle, we always see a huge amount of innovative thinking by the team to identify and correct the issue. New tests are devised to isolate and identify the problem. New hardware is made both for the testing and to install on the vehicle. And new procedures and processes are developed to test and check out the fix. The engineers and managers frequently collaborate, both within NASA and across the government and academia, to bring in systems experts to help identify the root cause of the problem and quickly converge on a solution. Over the past 30 years, our shuttle team has demonstrated a tremendous degree of innovative thinking in solving problems, whether in flight or on the ground. The recent issue of the external tank stringer cracks is an excellent example of the very thorny problem that was successfully solved in innovative thinking, perseverance, and engineering discipline. Your ingenuity and innovation are second to none. You truly are problem solvers and solution creators. I've been proud and amazed many, many times, and just not during the past nearly 2 years I've been the administrator. The shuttle has provided this nation with many firsts, with many proud moments, and it has helped the United States to lead the world in space exploration. I was fortunate enough to be a part of 2 of its historic achievements, the deployment of STS-31 of the Hubble Space Telescope, and the first Russian-U.S. shuttle mission, STS-60, which presaged the unprecedented international cooperation we've achieved since on the International Space Station. I was privileged to fly aboard Columbia, Discovery, and Atlantis. There's no more awe-inspiring or humbling experience than flying to space. With 7 million pounds of thrust beneath you, you're aware of your frailty as a human being and also the great things which we are capable. My experience as commander of STS-60, the first flight of a Russian cosmonaut on the shuttle, taught me that there is no limit to what we can accomplish in our international partnerships when we set common goals among diverse, sometimes discordant nations and set our minds to achievement of those goals. Over 3 decades, this flagship program has become part of the fabric of our nation's history. It's helped us improve communications on Earth and to understand our home planet better. It set scientific satellites like Magellan and Ulysses speeding on their missions into the solar system and launched Hubble and Chandra to explore the universe. The shuttle program has given us tremendous knowledge about a reusable spacecraft and launch system from which future government and commercial systems will benefit. It's enabled construction of the International Space Station, our anchor for future human exploration, which is leading to breakthroughs in human health and microgravity research. And it's provided, as Bob said, first ever astronaut flight and command opportunities for women and minorities. We'll never forget the crews of Challenger and Columbia. Many of us here today counted them as our personal friends, and their sacrifice and achievements will live on in the spirit of perseverance and grit and hope in which they lived and worked. They were all true American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice and service to this country. The shuttle's retirement is bittersweet for all of us, but at NASA, we're also very excited about our future, a future that is bright and open to us because of the shuttle program. We could not be reaching for new heights and developing the next generation of capabilities without the technological breakthroughs of the shuttle and the many lessons learned that we will carry forward. Our commitment to human spaceflight is steadfast. We will continue to lead the world in human exploration and discovery. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Our human spaceflight program continues with astronauts living and working on the International Space Station, where we have lived and worked for over 10 years now, and will continue to do so for at least another decade. Of course, we wouldn't have been able to build that orbiting outpost without the shuttle. We wouldn't have established that model of global cooperation that will serve us well into the future as a guidepost for how we work and how we can work together as an international community toward the greater things of which we are capable as human beings. With the last flight of Atlantis in June, the shuttle era will come to an end. But they won't stop inspiring, and they won't stop being a part of the fabric of America. Its significance as one of the most amazing technological marvels of all time will become even more evident after we no longer have it as our premier vehicle for transportation of crew and cargo to low Earth orbit. Each shuttle has stories to be told, history to be shared. We intend to tell their stories and share that history with as many people as we can over the coming years and decades. Today, I'm proud to announce where these national treasures will be displayed and enjoyed by millions of Americans once the shuttle program concludes. First, here at the Kennedy Space Center, where every shuttle mission and so many other historic I guess I got something right today. Thanks very much. I think I know what it does for you. You have no idea what that applause did for me. It's been a rough day. First, here at the Kennedy Space Center, where every shuttle mission and so many other historic human space flights have originated, we'll showcase my old friend Atlantis. Not only will the workers who sent it into space so many times have a chance to still see it, the millions of visitors who come here every year to learn more about space and to be a part of the excitement of exploration will be able to see what is still a great rarity, an actual flown space vehicle. The California Science Center in Los Angeles, only a few miles from the site of the old Rockwell plant, where the shuttle was developed and from where its construction was managed, will be the new home of the shuttle on the launch pad preparing its final mission, Endeavor. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center in Virginia, will get Discovery, our most traveled orbiter. And New York City's Intrepid Sea Air and Space Museum, on whose flight deck Mercury and Gemini modules and flight crews were returned to us after splashdown from their historic space missions, will get Enterprise, our prototype orbiter that tested the aerodynamics of the craft before it flew into space. There were many, many worthy institutions that requested an orbiter, and only 4 to go around. Many of the applicant institutions who did not receive an orbiter will receive significant shuttle hardware and artifacts to help bring to life this dynamic chapter of our nation's space exploration history for their many visitors. People from across our nation and around the world will continue to learn from these amazing vehicles and the stories of their crews and their missions. The shuttles will inspire many people who are now just in school to become the next generation of exploration leaders, and millions more who are just proud and passionate about our space program will also now have a chance to see a space shuttle in person. I want to congratulate all of these fine institutions and wish them many visitors and exciting programs with the Space Shuttle fleet. For all of them, take good care of our vehicles. They've served the nation well, and we at NASA have a deep and abiding relationship and love affair with them that's hard to put into words. Now, we're going to look ahead to Endeavor's final mission into space, STS-134. Thank you all again for your service and support to this amazing program and to these amazing flying machines. And thank all of you for your dedicated service to our great nation. Stay focused. As I look at Mike Moses and I look around at the others of you, he's going to remind us over the coming days, stay focused. We've got 2 more flights to do. so that we can safely fly out the shuttle. Stay focused. You've done an incredible job. You should feel incredibly proud. I know I do. May God bless all of you and your families, and may God bless the United States of America.
Space Shuttle Endeavour, born out of the loss of the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986, represented a commitment to continuing America's human spaceflight program. The nation's decision to build Endeavour set the stage for dramatic missions to come. The last of 5 orbiters to be built for spaceflight, Endeavour was named in a national competition by elementary and secondary school students after the 18th century sailing vessel commanded by Captain James Cook. Construction of Endeavour began with its contract award on July 31, 1987 to replace Challenger, which was lost 73 seconds after launch on January 28, 1986. Endeavour was outfitted with many safety improvements, including a drag chute to be deployed post-landing and nose-wheel steering to improve wear on the tires during rollout on the runway. Additionally, Endeavour's plumbing was designed for a state-of-the-art addition allowing for longer stays in space. Endeavour was delivered to NASA's Kennedy Space Center from its Palmdale, California construction site in May 1991. When Endeavour completes its final mission, it will have traveled more than 115 million miles during 25 trips to space. It will have carried 139 different people into orbit. Although Endeavour was the final space shuttle to be built, its career has been one of firsts, and its legacy will be one of opening humanity's greatest eye on the universe and expanding the space frontier for nations around the world.
For an out-of-this-world space laboratory.
Houston, Endeavour, roll program.
Roger, roll, Endeavour.
Well, let's see. First off, Charlie, thank you so much for trusting us with the care of Atlantis. I promise you we'll take good care of her. And again, I'd like to add my congratulations to all the museums that have been entrusted with the care of an orbiter. I know that it'll make a real difference around the country as we continue to inspire the next generation. It's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Janet Cavandi, the Director of Flight Crew Operations. I had the privilege of sitting on the astronaut selection board when Janet was selected, and Dr. Cavandi is one of the reasons I'm really glad that I got to be selected as an astronaut when I was, because folks are getting a whole lot smarter. She's a veteran of 3 space shuttle missions, but most importantly, she's a really, really nice person. Janet Cavandi.
Well, good afternoon, and congratulations to all the very fortunate recipients of America's space shuttles. You should be very proud. It is an honor to be here with you today. It is a day of mixed emotions, excitement that the shuttle program has achieved that distinguished anniversary of 30 years, and a little sadness that we are approaching the end of such an amazing era. The shuttles have done a great many jobs in their long careers. They have carried millions of pounds of cargo to orbit. Through the Hubble Space Telescope, they have given us views of the universe that no other instrument has yet been able to do from Earth's surface. And since I see Professor Ting here in the audience in the first row, I'm compelled to also mention the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, which flew on my first mission, STS-91, and which will fly again on STS-134, the next flight. It has the hope of collecting cosmic radiation and maybe antimatter, which could help solve some of the mysteries of the universe. The shuttles have so far carried 356 individual humans aboard. We expect to fly the last 2 new people later this month. And they have been instrumental in the construction of the most amazing structure ever known to humankind, the International Space Station. But these are not the only things, or perhaps even the most important things that the shuttle fleet has accomplished. Like many of us here, I remember watching the first shuttle launch, carrying John Young and Bob Crippen. While I was very concerned for the 2 men on board, I was also thrilled to know that we were embarking on a new generation of spacecraft. I felt the intense pride as an American, and I was inspired and motivated to see what I could do to contribute to my country's space program. It is this inspiration, motivation, hope, pride, and honor for this country and her citizens that may be the shuttle's lasting legacy. Let me give some examples. My uncle was a NASA engineer at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. He worked with Wernher von Braun to design the space shuttle engines in the 1970s. As a child, I remember wanting to do what he did. I thought working for NASA would be the best job anyone could have. His work inspired and motivated me. Years later, my nephew once told me that watching me launch on the space shuttle inspired him at a very young age to become a rocket scientist. And now, as a freshman in high school, he is in competition at the international level at the science fair. My niece is at the top of her graduating class and wants to study animal sciences. My son is studying engineering in college. My daughter wants to be a physician. So we can see just what one person who had worked in this business can do to inspire generations to come. All these are only a few examples of the impact the shuttle program has had on our nation's future leaders. Images of the shuttle have inspired school children to study math and science when they could have focused on easier subjects. The shuttle has motivated college students to pursue the more difficult science and engineering degrees in the hopes of someday designing a vehicle or experiment that might fly into space. The shuttle has inspired otherwise completely rational adults with satisfying and successful careers to give it all up to move to Houston, Texas for the chance to fly in space themselves. The shuttle has motivated hardworking people from all around this nation to build the parts, assemble the hardware, code the software, and launch these complex machines into space from the beautiful space coast of Florida. The space shuttles have literally been the pride and joy for the workers here at the Kennedy Space Center. Parting with these vehicles will be like parting with family. Being a mother myself, I can understand these feelings. For instance, you will always remember your orbiter's first rollout. You will remember getting up at the crack of dawn to load their hypergulls. You will remember sitting with them throughout the night before their first launch, making sure that they were ready when the big moment came. These things were done with nothing less than love. And you just hope that someday someone will appreciate all you sacrificed to make sure they turned out right. Well, they did turn out right. America will now be able to appreciate all your hard work as they will be able to see these incredible machines up close as only you have had the opportunity to do. Your efforts will not be forgotten as these vehicles will be displayed with the respect and honor that they deserve. Okay, and as one is coming back home, one of your children, Atlantis, is coming back home to live with you, I'm hoping that Colonel Cabana may consider a joint custody for maybe this orbiter, because Mom and Dad both love Atlantis, and maybe we could work out something on holidays, summers, just think about it, okay? All right. Finally, on behalf of the Flight Crew Operations Director, the Astronaut Office, and all those who have the distinguished privilege to serve as a crew member aboard the Space Shuttle, let me express my deepest gratitude to every launch director, flight controller, trainer, engine specialist, debris analyst, and yes, rocket scientist, plus all of the other thousands of specialists out there who I don't have the time to name, and most of all, to all those who gave their lives in pursuit of these loftier goals. For the last 30 years of human spaceflight, we thank you. It has been my deepest honor and greatest privilege to have served NASA and the United States of America as a crew member on the amazing Space Shuttle. Thank you.
Since first arriving at the Kennedy Space Center 25 years ago, Space Shuttle Atlantis has made the 4-mile trek from KSC's Vehicle Assembly Building to its oceanside launch pads more than 30 times. The fourth of NASA's 5 orbiters, Atlantis' career has not been lacking in firsts. Among them, the first shuttle to deploy a probe to another planet, the first shuttle to dock to a space station, and the first shuttle to fly with a glass cockpit. Atlantis has traveled more than 115 million miles in the pursuit of exploration. Its legacy enabled NASA and its international partners to accomplish some of the most complex work in human spaceflight history. Work that has yielded immeasurable benefits and allowed us to greatly advance the frontiers of knowledge.
Let's see, I now get to welcome a true space pioneer to the podium, Mike Parrish. Mike started out as an electrical tech in the mid-body, and he worked his way up to being Endeavor's vehicle manager for United Space Alliance. I also hear he's into extreme sports, but that's another story. Please welcome an original member of the STS-1 support team here at KSC, Mike Parrish.
Well, I am the astronaut wannabe on stage. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that out there. I started out here with the Space Shuttle family 32 years ago. As Bob said, I was an electrician working in the cargo bay on Columbia, and I worked my way up to the crew module, hoping to become one of the spacecraft operators out here. And I remember my very first job working on the crew module. I was on the flight deck, and I was working on the Administrator Control Assembly, and we were doing some of that troubleshooting that Charlie had talked about. The vehicle was powered up, and I was getting ready to put my test leads into the breakout box, and all of a sudden the vehicle powered down. And I'm thinking, oh no, they're going to send me back to the mid-body. You know? All the fans are up there all in quiet, the lights went out, you know, and it wasn't a good day. So this voice that was on the flight deck, he says, "Son, what in the heck did you just do?" And that was the voice of a guy named Archie McCabe. Archie was one of the guys here from the Apollo era. You know, he was one of the guys we looked up to. He was a legend, you know. And I'll tell you, for the time that he was talking to me, I was nervous on the flight deck. But I found out that my troubleshooting didn't bring down the vehicle, so that was good news. They let me stay up in the crew module, and I became one of those spacecraft operators. Archie and I became the first two to become part of the astronaut exchange crew on STS-4. So we got to go in and take over some responsibilities on the runway that the astronauts got to do. And we also got to ride back to the hangar in the shuttle, eating some of the astronaut snacks. So that was good. One of the other flights I do remember was the STS-41G, and that was Bob Crippen's last mission. I don't know what it was about that particular mission, but when we opened up the hatch, it seemed like his entire crew was down there to greet us. Sally Ride was there, Kathy Sullivan was there, Dave, Mark, Paul. I don't know what inspired them. They were ready to come out. I don't know if they were looking for lunch or some fresh air. I used to think I knew a lot about the space shuttle until I went to Houston and got to spend some time in the simulator doing deorbit burns with Bill Shepard. And we didn't make it back the first 3 attempts. What I did realize that at that time, it gave me a new respect for the people like our next speaker. So we all have a role to play. We are absolutely dedicated to what we do, and it's teamwork that makes a shuttle program work. We count on each other. We trust each other. And that is one of the reasons I feel so blessed to be part of this NASA team. We all do what we can do to help this program and the people associated with it. The person I have the privilege to introduce is a decorated Navy pilot who has flown as 4 space shuttle missions and has served as KSC director from 1992 to 1995. He was the pilot on STS-1, and he is one of the bravest men I know. He is an American hero, Bob Crippen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you for that very warm welcome, and thank you, Mike. And I appreciated seeing quite a few hands go up when it was asked who was working here 30 years ago. And thank you for inviting me to participate in this event. It always gives me a pleasure to come back to the Kennedy Space Center. You know, the 30th anniversary of when John Young and I took Columbia on the maiden flight of the Space Shuttle makes me feel a little old. However, recently, a daughter of one of my neighbors brought over her social studies book to show me that it contained a picture of John and I on that flight. Now, being in a history book makes you really feel old. However, April the 12th of 1981 was a historic day for not only for John and I and the entire shuttle team. The 1970s was not exactly a high water mark in our nation. We'd had the Vietnam War. We'd had both Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy shot. We'd had hostages taken in Iran. And President Reagan was shot about 2 weeks before that flight. We really needed a positive boost, and the Space Shuttle gave the United States that boost. John and I had longer to train than we had planned due to technical problems, which you usually run into on a highly technical program, primarily with our Space Shuttle main engines and the thermal protection system, or the tiles as we know them here. However, on April the 10th, we thought we might be ready, so we went out to give it a try. Wasn't the case. We had a computer problem, something we hadn't seen before. But some smart people figured it out, and we tried again on April the 12th. And I truly expected there was a high likelihood that we would scrub again because it is such a complicated vehicle. However, when the count passed 1 minute, I turned to John and I said, I think we might do it. That's when my heart rate went up to about 130. John's was down at a nice calm 90, and I'm surprised mine didn't go faster. And it was a fantastic flight, well worth the 14 years since I had first been selected as an astronaut. John and I had trained for every possible contingency that we could think of, and thank goodness we didn't have to contend with very many. After 2.5 days, we flew back into Edwards, where John made one of the world's best landing on the dry lake bed. And as was pointed out by Charlie, this is a bittersweet time for me as we bring the shuttle program to a close after 3 decades of operation. I am extremely proud of what the shuttle has accomplished in those 30 years. Yes, we did have 2 terrible tragedies, but after each one, the program pulled itself together and did what was necessary to get us back flying again. Early on, we flew some DoD payloads that, in my opinion, had a significant role in us winning the Cold War. Then with various satellites like Magellan, Galileo, Ulysses, and Hubble, we've revolutionized not only the knowledge of our solar system, but the entire universe. We've learned to work and live in space for extended periods of time, and now we've concluded by constructing the most engineering complex system that has ever been assembled, the International Space Station. That has taught us how to work in space internationally, which will be extremely important when we decide once more to send humans beyond Earth orbit. All of that was made possible by you and the thousands of other American workers that have contributed to the program. I spent more than 25 years working on the shuttle in various capacities. And yes, I'm extremely proud of what each of them has accomplished, just as you are. I like to tell people that the program is made up not of propellants, hardware, and software. It's made up of people. Each of one of us knows that working on the shuttle is no ordinary job. It takes a great deal of skill and dedication. I know that as we complete the last 2 flights with Endeavour and Atlantis, you will continue to demonstrate that same dedication to ensure the program ends on the same high note that it began 30 years ago. As Charlie says, keep focused. I believe it would be appropriate if the Discovery, Endeavour, and Atlantis could form a trio and sing that great old country song by Boots and Dunn called "You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone." Thank you.
Well, as we look toward that final flight of Atlantis in June, we can't help but recognize the legacy that the Space Shuttle has left the world. The Space Shuttle program has made possible countless scientific breakthroughs. It's produced unprecedented international cooperation, and it's fostered a future of human exploration made up of limitless possibilities. I'm blessed to have been a very small part of this program and this team. And more importantly, I'm extremely proud of the thousands of people that have made it such a success, and that's all of you. Let's continue to dream. We can't ever give up on our dreams. We are going to continue to explore, and let's work together to that shared vision of a future that we have with limitless possibilities. Thank you so much for coming today and being part of this celebration. I hope that a lot of you have tickets to our barbecue at 3:30 over at the Visitor Center. We'll continue with some refreshments and a live band. It's a special day, and we don't want the celebration to end. And finally, let me say, go Endeavour!
Thank you.